All right, 8th grade, here it is, your spotlight on ethos. Ethos, if you recall, is one of the three classical rhetorical appeals. Ethos is an appeal to authority. You are counting on someone's authority as an expert or as an eyewitness to carry the day. You're relying on people's trusting the source you are using to help prove your argument. If you're watching TV and you got a Colgate commercial that says 4 out of 5 dentists approve Colgate, they're relying on the authority of those 4 dentists. They're using that authority to prove that their toothpaste is the one you should buy. Likewise, if I told you, as a Terp, I think the University of Maryland is the best school ever, I'm using my personal ethos as an alum of the University of Maryland to make the case that it's the best school ever. It varies on its effectiveness depending on how trustworthy you think the source is. If you don't think I'm a trustworthy person, then I'm not going to make a very convincing case for you to go to the University of Maryland. You're like, yeah, he's not a trustworthy guy. I can't trust his opinion on the University of Maryland. On the other hand, if you do think I'm a respected authority and you're using my ethos to prove someone should go to the University of Maryland, that is going to be a very effective argument. So you need to consider when you're coming up with sources of ethos how reliable the source is and how reliable people see it as. If people see it as an unreliable source, they're going to discount it, and they're probably going to discount the rest of your argument because you're using something they distrust to prove it. That's why you have to be very careful when you're picking your sources to do your research for this. That's why you need to pick reliable sources, because if you pick unreliable sources, you are going to hurt your argument even worse than if you had used none at all. Now, ethos is great for when you are trying to bring in expert opinions. Let's say, for example, your topic's nuclear power, and you're not an expert on nuclear power, but you find a research doctor who is. That would be a good example of how to use ethos to help support up your logos and maybe your pathos. But you're using that because you're calling in an expert. That is what ethos is best for, is bringing in an expert. Or if you're quoting a book about the topic, that's another great way to use ethos. Or you're citing history. History is another good way to use ethos if you're bringing in historical figures who are relevant to your topic. Those are all great ways for you to use ethos. Ethos you see in your everyday lives. If you see a movie commercial on TV, they're probably using ethos when they say, see the movie the New York Times is calling sensational. That would be an example of ethos. They're using the authority of the New York Times to prove why you should go watch their movie. So, I hope this has helped you understand ethos, and I will see you tomorrow with our spotlight on pathos. Take care, 8th grade.